As we sit here this morning, we're in no position to deny and refute that claim. Because right now, the Boston Celtics look like a team that can win the championship.
Look at the swing, the attack, the elevation. Ah!
Jason Tatum is back, and not only is he back, he started.
Tatum, welcome back.
This was supposed to be a gap year for the Boston Celtics. Tatum tore his Achilles in the playoffs. The roster was gutted in the offseason to avoid luxury tax penalties. Over half the championship core was gone. At that point, the basketball world basically closed the book on Boston's season before it even started. But Jaylen Brown and Joe Mazzulla had other plans. And if you need a single image to understand exactly what those plans look like, in a recent game against the Heat, Brown drops 43 points. Tatum records a 25-point, 1-8 rebound, 11-assist triple-double, and the Celtics score 53 points in the first quarter alone, a franchise record tied for the second most first-quarter points in NBA history. Final score, 147-129. Second in the Eastern Conference. Fourth best net rating in the entire NBA, built almost entirely without their franchise player on the floor. And now, Tatum is back and looks to be fully integrated. And what he came back to isn't the depleted, surviving version of the Celtics that everyone expected. He came back to a team that figured something out while he was gone. Something about how they want to play, who they want to be, and what this roster is actually capable of when the system is running right. So this video isn't about whether Boston is still relevant. That conversation is over. This is about how this happened, because the answer is more interesting than the result. And by the end of this, you're going to look at this team completely different heading into the playoffs. But let's start at the beginning, because to understand what the Celtics are now, you need to understand why everyone was so convinced they were done. The gap year narrative made complete sense on paper. It genuinely did. You lose 3 veterans from a championship team. Your best player tears his Achilles in the middle of a playoff run. And you're rolling into the season with Jaylen Brown as your best available player and a bunch of guys who have never had to carry a team before. Every projection had Boston somewhere in the 4 to 8 seed range. Competitive, but not championship caliber. But what those predictions missed was the system. Joe Mazzulla has been building something in Boston that doesn't actually depend on any specific player to function. Mazzulla ball. And the core of it is pretty straightforward. 5-out spacing, high volume 3-point shooting, minimal turnovers, and a defensive philosophy built on staying connected and trusting the structure rather than gambling for steals or over-rotating. The Celtics' discipline is forcing you into making the wrong play. But what's remarkable is that without Tatum, their primary creator, their best offensive player over the last few years, their offense still ranked second in the entire NBA at 119.6 points per 100 possessions, without their best player for the majority of the season. The defense held at 4th in the league with a 111.8 defensive rating. And that makes Boston one of only 2 teams in the NBA, the other being San Antonio, to rank top 5 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. But here's the part of the season that doesn't get enough attention. Not only did the Celtics maintain their offensive identity, they actually fixed one of their long-standing weaknesses in the process. Rebounding has always been a soft spot for this team. They lived and died by the 3-point shot for years. And when you build a roster around perimeter shooting, you tend to sacrifice some physicality up front. This season, Boston is currently 6th in total rebounding percentage, the highest they've ranked in years. They went from a team that was consistently getting worked on the glass to one that's actively dominating the rebounding battle most nights. In a recent win over Atlanta, they pulled down 52 boards to the Hawks' 35, and those second chance opportunities were the difference in the game. A lot of that comes down to one guy who deserves his own section, and we'll get there. But the broader point is this: The gap year narrative assumed the Celtics were dependent on their veterans to compete. What this season proved is that the veterans were the product of the system, not the other way around. When they left, the system didn't leave with them. It got handed to the next group of guys, and those guys ran it. Now, none of this would have been possible without what Jaylen Brown has done this season. He's taken his game to the next level and forced the league to take him seriously in a way it never quite had before. He's averaging 28.7 points, 7 rebounds, and 5.3 assists per game. He's leading the league in shots per game. He's forced himself into the top 5 of the MVP conversation, and first-team All-NBA is looking like a lock. And after dropping 43 on the Heat, 20 of those in the first quarter alone, that conversation isn't going anywhere. But the raw numbers undersell what's actually changed. The assist number is the thing that matters most. Brown has always been a guy who could get his own shot off the dribble, in transition, attacking closeouts. What he wasn't for most of his career was someone who made the entire offense function around him. This season, that's changed. He's running the half-court offense with real decision-making, reading the defense, hitting the right man at the right time. And when you have shooters and cutters of that quality around you, good decisions lead to good shots almost every time. What Brown's development as a connector did was free everyone else to do their job without pressure. Peyton Pritchard could attack, Sam Hauser could space and wait for the kick out. Derek White could focus his energy on the defensive end without having to manufacture offense out of nowhere, because Brown was absorbing the defensive attention that Tatum used to carry and he was distributing it correctly. Defensively, Brown raised his level too. He's guarding the opponent's best perimeter player on a nightly basis. The version of Brown we're watching right now is a genuinely complete player. Two-way, reliable under pressure, and capable of willing a team to win when everything else breaks down. There's also an MVP case worth addressing, honestly, because it gets complicated. Brown has had a phenomenal season, but the 4 guys ahead of him in the race are having unbelievable years too. It's not like the voters are sleeping on him. It's that the competition at the top of the ballot is as stacked as it's been for years. So realistically, the MVP hardware isn't coming to Boston. But first team All-NBA? That's a lock. And more importantly, carrying the Celtics to a second seed without its best player is the kind of thing that changes how the league sees you permanently. Because Jaylen Brown isn't the same player he was 2 years ago, and the league now knows it. And now Tatum is back. Which brings us to the part nobody saw coming. Achilles recoveries are notoriously difficult. Even when a player is physically cleared, the confidence takes time to catch up with the body. The cutting, the planting, the explosive first step, that stuff doesn't come back overnight. And look, he's not quite at 100% yet. The explosiveness is still coming. But here's the thing, he doesn't need to be at 100% to make this team genuinely terrifying. Since returning, he's averaging 21.4 points, 9.9 rebounds, and 5.1 assists per night in 31 minutes. And against Miami, he put up 25 points, 18 rebounds, and 11 assists in his first triple-double of the season. Combined with Brown's 43, the two of them were directly involved in 105 of Boston's 147 points. The rust burned off faster than anyone expected. But here's the thing that actually matters more than his individual stat lines. The team didn't regress when he came back. The culture, the system, and the mentality, all of it held. Nobody lost their role or their confidence the moment the star walked back through the door. Mazzulla folded Tatum back into a structure that was already functioning at a high level. And the result is a team that can beat you in multiple ways. And the roster Tatum came back to is legitimately better in certain areas than what he left. Neemias Queta has had one of the best breakout seasons of any big man in the NBA this year. stepping into a starting center role that was a genuine question mark heading into the season. Quetta is averaging 10 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 1.3 blocks on 65% shooting from the field. Against the Heat, he posted 16 points on 71% shooting, with 11 rebounds and a plus 28 plus minus, the best on the team that night. He's transformed the Celtics frontcourt. The rebounding improvement we talked about earlier runs directly through him. There's real rim protection now. There's a guy who can hold position in the post, clean up misses on both ends, and give Tatum and Brown a reliable outlet when the perimeter game isn't there. Then there's Peyton Pritchard, who's averaging 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 5.1 assists. When Brown missed time recently, Pritchard stepped up and dropped 36 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists against Atlanta. Sam Hauser scored 23 against Miami on 9 of 11 shooting, including 5 of 7 from 3. 17 of those points in the first quarter, tying a Celtics franchise record for threes in a single quarter. Hauser has been shooting 38.7% from 3 and opening up every driving lane that Tatum and Brown can attack. And beyond the shooting, he's developed into a real defender and a capable passer, which has made him genuinely difficult to take off the floor in big moments. Baylor Scheiman is playing through a fractured thumb and sprained ankle and still shooting 38.6% from 3. Luke Cornett just went for 22 off the bench against Minnesota. Jordan Walsh is providing a physical, frenetic defense energy that Boston leans on in certain matchups, and Derek White continues to be the defensive anchor that holds the whole structure together. Then there's Hugo Gonzalez. The Celtics post a plus 17.1 net rating when he's on the court. One of the best on-off numbers for any player in the league this season. From a late first-round rookie, Gonzalez brings relentless defensive energy, rebounding, intelligent cutting off the ball, and a feel for the game. Add in the addition of Nikola Vucevic, and this roster has 10 to 11 guys who can contribute in meaningful ways. Tatum came back to the deepest Celtics team in years, built and road-tested without him. That's the actual story of this season. The Celtics used the hardest year they could have been handed and came out the other side with a better front court, a more versatile bench, a franchise player in Brown who leveled up under pressure, and a system that proved it doesn't need any single star to keep running. Before we wrap this up, there's a real conversation to have, because this video would be incomplete if we just talked about everything the Celtics are doing well and glossed over the thing that should genuinely worry Boston fans heading into the postseason. When they run into a defense that can actually crowd the three-point line, that can build a wall at the arc, take away the catch points, and force Boston into a different kind of offense, the whole system can stall. Look at their record against the top 2 teams in the West. Against OKC and San Antonio combined, Boston is 1-3 this season. The Spurs have handled them twice, and OKC took one earlier in the year when Tatum was still on the sideline. But here's where it gets interesting. The last time Boston and OKC shared a floor with Tatum back in the lineup, the Celtics won. And that result matters more than the overall record does, because it tells you something about what this team actually looks like at full strength, versus what it looked like for most of the season running without its best player. The hope for Boston is that Tatum changes this equation significantly. His ability to manufacture offense in isolation, the post-ups, the pull-up off the high ball screen, the mid-range game he's been developing for years, gives them something they simply don't have when he's not out there. You can't just wall off the arc and dare the Celtics to beat you off the dribble when Tatum is healthy, because he will. That's what he does. The gap year narrative is dead, and it deserved to die, because it was built on the assumption that what made Boston good was the names on the floor, when the reality is, what makes Boston good is the blueprint underneath it all. Tatum is back. Brown is playing like a legit top 5 player in the league. The front court is solved in a way it hasn't been in years. The bench has real contributors top to bottom. And there are 10 to 12 guys in the rotation who know exactly what their job is and how to execute it. This isn't the same Boston Celtics. It was never supposed to be. The team that won in 2024 was great. What's being built in 2025 to 2026 is different. Younger in certain spots, deeper across the board, and stress tested in a way that championship teams rarely get tested during a regular season. They got handed the hardest version of this year, and they passed. But the question nobody is asking yet, the one that's going to define the next 2 months, is whether Mazzulla Ball can hold up over 7-game series against the best in the East. Are Boston the favorites to come out of the East? Drop your take in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe for more videos like this one, and check out one of these videos on your screen now.